Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Fox with West 2 News and West.com. And this is another in our series of debates leading up to the August 23rd primary election to get you a little more familiar with the candidates in key races. Right now, we're talking to the Democratic contenders in Congress District 10. And this area cuts across Orange County from Orlo Vista, Oak Ridge, and the Dr. Phillips area to UCF, Lake Pickett, and Wedgefield, and includes much of Orlando. This is a crowded field of candidates. There are actually 10, and we have, let me count them up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them joining us now. A Mr. Jack Achenbach, for scheduling conflict, could not join us, but we are joined by Jeff Boone, State Senator Randolph Bracy, former Congresswoman Corinne Brown, Maxwell Frost, Reverend Terence Gray, former Congressman Alan Grayson, Natalie Jackson, Khalid Munir, and Teresa Tashon. I believe that's Dr. Tashon. Okay, very good. We're going to, in the next while, get through as many comments as we can, find out from these candidates exactly where they stand, and give you, the voter, an opportunity to make a choice in this primary election. First, I'm going to give everyone a 1-minute opening statement, and we're going to start with Mr. Boone.
My name is Jeff Boone, and I have over 30 years of experience as a husband, father, community coach, and financial executive of a major Florida university. I became frustrated with the all or nothing mentality of elected officials. That has hurt us and prevented anything from getting done. I'm about bringing people together to make a difference. I'm not in favor of defunding the police. I'm more focused on fighting for abortion rights, gun control, and addressing our kitchen table concerns. Inside our homes, we must choose between gasoline and groceries and can barely afford healthcare and housing. Outside, there's a chance for random gun violence. Some career politicians have sadly been on the wrong side of gun control and not delivering results. Community activists often unable to pivot from protesting and marching to passing legislation. The future of our district is too important to leave the questionable judgment of career politicians or the inexperience of young candidates beholden to out-of-state millionaire investors. I have the necessary experience to address our everyday needs. I'm just everyday people. My name is Jeff Boone, and I'm asking for your vote.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bracy, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. I'm State Senator Randolph Bracy. I've been elected now for 10 years in the state legislature, 4 in the House, 6 in the Senate. And during my tenure, especially in the Senate, I've passed more legislation than any lawmaker, any Democratic lawmaker in this state. I brought more money home for certain projects for Central Florida for this district. So I have the experience, and I appreciate everyone that is in this race, but no one has the experience and done what I've done in this state and in this region more than I have. So thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to move on now to Ms. Brown. 1 minute.
Thank you. My name is Congresswoman Corinne Brown. I've served in the U.S. House of Representatives for 10 years and the member of Congress from Orlando for 24 years. I am qualified candidate, and I want to talk about the things that I've done. If you look at $1 billion for MARTA, if you look at money for the VA hospital, beautification downtown courthouse, and the list goes on and on. So I'm thanking you for the opportunity to be here today. And of course, I'm looking forward for a lively debate.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Maxwell Frost, 1 minute.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Maxwell Alejandro Frost. I'm an organizer, advocate, and candidate for Congress running to represent the community that I was born and raised in. 10 years ago, my life changed forever because of the massacre that happened at Sandy Hook. I mean, I remember going to Washington, D.C. for the memorial and sitting across from Matthew Soto, who lost his sister, Vicky, in that shooting. She hid her class in cabinets when she heard the gunshots to save their lives. And seeing a 16-year-old with the demeanor of a 60-year-old crying over his sister who was murdered for going to school changed my life. I mean, gun violence woke me up. Since then, I've worked for the American Civil Liberties Union, both nationally and here in Florida, to get voting rights for over 1.6 million Floridians. In the wake of the mass shooting at Parkland, I became the national organizing director of March for Our Lives, where we demanded action on ending gun violence. And so, see, in this moment, we need to elect someone new. Someone who has the courage to ask for better and to ask for more. And I know that there's a lot about the present that can seem unsettling and at times terrifying. But I'm running for Congress because when we come together and when we fight.
All right, that is a minute, Mr. Frost. We're going to move on to Mr. Gray.
Thank you very kindly. My name is Terence Gray. I am a son as well as a grandfather. I want you to know I was blessed to be raised by a father who was a U.S. postman, as well as a mother who found herself working diligently at JCPenney as a supervisor. But I had the opportunity to watch them get older, especially my mother. And when my mother got older, I started realizing senior care is something of serious, needs a serious attention. And attention that basically means if you don't have the resources, you might break the bank. I'm concerned about that, but I'm also a grandfather. You know, I realize I have 2 wonderful grandchildren growing up, and I'm concerned about their safety. I'm concerned about assault weapons being in our schools and even being on our streets. And I'm concerned about them having a future in this country. I'm concerned about them being set apart and accused and treated badly just because of the race of their skin. Then lastly, I want to say to you, I'm running because I believe in people. My name is Terence Gray, and I solicit your support.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, we're going in alphabetical order in the opening, so Gray had to be followed by Grayson. So Mr. Grayson, 1 minute, please.
Thanks. I'm Alan Grayson, candidate for Congress and 3-term congressman from Orlando, including from this district. What we face right now is a great challenge called inflation. The cost of living is too damn high, and we have to do something about it. What you all expect from a congressman is to use the power of the office to make our lives better in Orlando. I propose this: lower tolls, lower taxes, and lower rent. Lower tolls, lower taxes, and lower rent. I used my first 3 terms as the congressman to accomplish practical solutions for all of us. The Grayson Mandatory Mediation Program cut foreclosures in half. And beyond that, one time after another, with an extra $100 million in competitive grants, for instance, to keep 7 schools open that were slated to be closed. I use the power of the office effectively to help us. That's what you deserve. Your vote is your power. Your power is your vote. Don't waste it. Use it for somebody who will give you a helping hand.
All right. Thank you very much. 1 minute, Ms. Jackson.
I'm Natalie Jackson. I'm a mother, a small business owner, a former naval intelligence officer, a civil rights attorney who has worked on policy outside of politics, like on cases like Trayvon Martin and the Pine Hills barbershop raids. But most importantly, I'm a 3rd-generation Central Floridian. I understand the needs of this community. I've been all over the district talking to people, and I hear you. People are hurting. Gas prices are through the roof. Rent is skyrocketing, home ownership is out of reach, healthcare is unaffordable, and the wealth gap is widening. Congress isn't working, and when Congress isn't working, it's not serving the people. I'm ready to do my duty and serve by utilizing my experience to help ease the pain and improve the lives of citizens in District 10. As your representative, I'll fight for small business owners, for affordable housing, to keep unions strong, and to ensure that our personal freedoms and human rights are protected. I invite you to check out my website at nataliejacksonforcongress.com, and I hope you'll join our campaign. My name is Natalie Jackson, and I'd be honored to earn your vote on August 20th.
All right, thank you. Mr. Munir, 1 minute, please.
Thank you, Greg and West too, for inviting us today. I'm Khalid Munir, and I'm running for Congress because our economy is struggling, and our constituents are paying extremely high prices for gas and consumer items. With bread at $2.50 a loaf, milk at $5 a gallon, gas just under $5, this is totally unacceptable. With my 17 years in banking and 30 plus years in business, I bring leadership, experience, and integrity to the race. I ran for property appraiser position 2 years ago because it lacked integrity. I will do what it takes to get the job done. And remind Democrats that this is a Donald Trump economy. Horrible COVID-19 response and result of lack of empathy and unpreparedness for which we are suffering now. I want to be a congressman to support our president in building back a better economy. We passed an infrastructure bill, and we will not be able to afford to complete that unless the products we are going to use come
All
down
right,
in price.
that is a minute, Mr. Munir. Thank you very much. I'm sure we will be hearing from you and everyone else here during the next while. Ms. Tashon, let's wrap this up with our opening statements. 1 minute, please.
It is an honor to be in this debate forum. It was 36 years ago that I first walked into a public school classroom. My name is Dr. Teresa Tashon. I'm a public high school mathematics teacher and a college adjunct professor. Yes, I work 2 jobs. We need to increase income for our working people, and we have to get our economy back on track. We have to keep our community safe. We have to keep our country safe. We have to invest in our public education system because doing so will fix so many more issues in our community and in our country. One of the reasons I'm running for Congress is to be a voice for education and for our teachers, because I think most of us can say that we are here today because of the teachers who have believed in us. Please vote Teresa Tashon for Congress. Thank you.
All right, and you knew this had to happen since I went in alphabetical order for opening statements. That means we're going to be switching it up now, but at least for the first question here, we're going to work our way backwards now. So we'll stick with Ms. Tashon, and I'll try to pronounce that correctly as we go along. Look, in a crowded field like this, what we really need to hear is what is the most important thing you would work on, or a most important bill you would file. Because we've heard a lot of things from healthcare to taxes are too high, rents are too high, gasoline is too high, all kinds of problems facing our country. Let's start with you. 1 minute. What is the first bill you'd file and why?
Education is one of our most important industries in our country, and our teachers are so important to us. They are frontline workers. They are our essential workers. So you would never know how important they were if you looked at their paycheck. We have to increase salaries for teachers, and we have to get this done at the federal government level. And in addition to that, we need to close the achievement gap. Low performing students and high performing students, the achievement gap studies have shown hasn't closed over the last decade or so. And Title I funds, there are so many disparities in the way that these funds are allocated to the states. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed. We need to do this on behalf of our children.
All right, Mr. Munir, 1 minute. What is the first bill you would file?
Right now, the main issue facing our constituent is the massive inflation. So we have to address that problem. So the first bill that I would file and the main reason for this massive inflation we have right now is the policy of the previous administration concerning tariffs. There are 25 tariffs to impose, especially from China, in order to control, which was a political decision or an economic decision. So we have to do something about lowering the tariff. That's the only way we're going to get the inflation down.
Okay, very good. Ms. Jackson, 1 minute. What is the first bill you would file?
My goal for District 10 is to bring money back home to Central Florida. I want to help small businesses grow, encourage the formation and success of new businesses, bring high-paying, high-tech businesses training to Central Florida, build denser, more affordable houses in walkable neighborhoods to modernize our roads and bridges, our water systems and clean energy capabilities. These are investments in our country which will create a middle class and renew investment and help local businesses and provide employment and purpose to Floridians. So the first bill I would file is a bill to help build our nation after the pandemic.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Grayson, I see your sign behind you, lower taxes, lower tolls, lower rent. I want you to tell me about the first bill you would file. I know you can't tackle all those things all at once, but I am interested in knowing if you can please clarify, how does the federal government on any level help to lower local tolls?
Well, I-4 is one of the few federal roads in the entire country with tolls, and that can be eliminated with a stroke of the pen. There's no reason why we should have tolls on a federal highway. It's a federal tax that applies only to Orlando alone. As for the 408 and other highways, the 408 bonds were paid for honestly decades ago. So the federal government should condition its federal aid on highways to not taxing people after the bonds have been paid off. With regard to lower taxes, the federal government taxes gas all across the country. We need to eliminate the gas tax. We need to eliminate the double taxation on Social Security. You get paid taxes when you pay into the system. You get to pay tax again when it pays out to you. And with regard to rent, it looks like we're going to be voting on rent control here in Orange County. I strongly support rent control. I think rent control should be a rollback of rents. I don't think that the current proposal goes far enough. And as for the federal government needs to make rent tax deductible.
All right, that is 1 minute. We're going to have, that is one, you can get back to it in the next question. We're going to go on to Mr. Gray. What is the first bill you would file and why?
One of the beautiful things about having great minds of this magnitude, you start hearing redundancy. And part of that redundancy is this. I fully support the economy. I believe we have to really seriously look at ways in which we can re-empower the community of what we call Greater Central Florida. All the more particularly, I'm concerned about this word called parity, a word of which I came to learn does not really mean anything. Really, the word minority is really not something we can even do anymore. When you start looking at having an opportunity to increase the wealth amongst all persons, that's not what we've been doing. We're getting people to pay taxes, but not allowing the wealth to come back proportionately amongst our constituents. I want to work on trying to find a way to proportionally empower small businesses and all businesses that we might succeed and grow. Thank you.
All right, very good. Mr. Frost, 1 minute. What is the first bill you would file?
You know, our country's facing major problems and multiple problems at the same time right now. And part of this job is being able to do many things at once, to pull all these levers at the same time to help working class families and people across the district. I will say, however, we can't be successful in the things we want to do if our children and our communities are being ravaged by gun violence, in which we're losing 100 people a day. People are scared to go out. People are scared to go to the movies. People are scared to send their children to school. And so HR 8, universal background checks, the first step to many steps in ensuring that we move to a country where you don't have to be afraid of losing your life due to gun violence, is important to me. And then we will continue to build on what we need to do at lowering rent costs, ensuring that we're addressing inflation and passing Medicare for all. So that way everybody has health care, no matter what your job is.
All right, Ms. Brown, first bill you would file.
The first thing I would do would be to implement the bill that's already passed, the transportation bill. I don't know any bill that is more important than getting our engine running than transportation. And clearly the bipartisan transportation bill is billions of dollars for Central Florida and will get our economy going. I don't see anyone pushing to get it implemented. When I look at the footprint that I have in Central Florida, Sunrail, $1 billion, the new Veterans Hospital, a beautiful downtown courthouse, and the list goes on and on. The way we get the economy moving is through transportation and economic development. And clearly the bipartisan bill has been passed, but no implementation. And that's what needs to happen.
All right, Mr. Bracey, 1 minute.
Thank you. I think it's important to tackle our gas prices and inflation. It's also been talked about rent control. Many people have talked about what they like to do. I've been actually proposing a rent control measure through the legislature. I'm currently dealing with affordable housing right now as we speak. I have an event that I'm sponsoring where I have many people coming to get housing assistance, down payment assistance. So I think we need to tackle the economy, but I'm doing it while many people are just talking about it. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. And Mr. Boone, first bill you would file.
Assuming where we are next January when I take office, if the gun control bill has been passed, we'll see if we need to add any more to that, but provided that it's satisfactory, we've got the bipartisan support. We'll see where the economy is at that point with the interest rates that the Fed hiked up to help curb inflation. If we're doing okay at that point, I would pivot and file legislation to make sure that a woman always has full control of her body, the same way a man has from cradle to grave. That's equal protection under the law. I would protect a woman's right to make a choice to ensure that it's legal and safe, and hopefully a rare choice if ever needing to be made. But if it is needing to be made, it is her right, her choice, and her right and choice alone. After that, we'll tackle other things like rent control, maybe see where we are at our state level, perhaps proposing a 10% or less hike, but making sure that we can balance between economic development and also renters' needs, though, and also working on the economy. I want to propose a tax reduction for small businesses, as well as women's and minority-owned businesses, and also helping businesses to create jobs.
Okay, that is our bell, and that's what it sounds like. I want to stick with I want to stick with gas prices right now, because we just haven't seen, in addition to inflation, the highest it's been since 1981. We have interest rates that are going up. People are staring at $5 a gallon gas, and we used to talk about it going up pennies. Now you're talking serious money for people who are wondering whether they buy gas today or whether they put groceries on the table. So, Mr. Boone, let's continue on this. Exactly what should we be doing? And if you're sent to DC, what will you be doing to try to lower those gas prices? We hear talk of pipelines. We hear talk of more drilling for oil and natural gas, maybe even closer to Florida, opening up oil reserves, more imports. What exactly is your plan?
I think with gas prices being so high, all options have to be on the table and looked at. But you also have to look at what's in the purview of Congress. Congress can lower the federal tax rate, which is about 18 cents right now on gasoline. We can also nudge as best as possible the president with oil reserves, though, releasing some oil from the reserves, though. I think that's something we can consider. But also at the same time, you start looking at offshore drilling, we need to be in touch with experts, though. We need to be in touch with people that deal with environment, make sure we're not harming the environment as well, too. And then also looking at where our supply is right now. The biggest thing is that we've lost at least 10% of our oil supply due to the Ukraine war with Russia. But at the same time, we need to think about long-term, our future, and making sure we're not dependent on some dictator from Russia, and we're not dependent upon his oil. Look at other ways that we can find oil and energy efficiency and be more dependent on ourselves and not other countries.
All right, we're going to mix it up a bit. We'll go to Ms. Jackson. What are we going to do about our $5 a gallon gas?
Well, we have to really decrease our dependency, our national dependency on fossil fuel. We have to, we have to make sure that we are committed to water power, to wind power, to solar power. We have to make sure that in the interim time, we have to realize that we need more competition here as far as the oil prices, because the oil prices are going up because the oil companies are making money off of it. So when there are few at the top end, when we're talking about markets, there's no hope for competition for lower prices if there's no competition. So to bring costs down, we need to stop modern monopolies and protect true free markets. So that's one of the things to do with it. But ultimately, we need to end our dependency on fossil fuel.
All right, thank you. Mr. Munir, what do we do about this gas crisis?
Mr. Fox, can I interrupt for a second? We were able to ask questions because she did touch upon something about the oil companies. And I think they need to be investigated, especially if they're gouging and they're trying to make up for lost revenue the last 2 years.
Okay, Mr. Boone, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Mr. Munir. What's your plan, Mr. Munir, if you're elected?
Well, our president has already passed the Defense Act production for the oil industry. Gas price is not just a local issue, it is a national security issue. The oil production is a national security issue. So we have to tackle the supply side of it. And that is exactly what our president is doing. So in terms of controlling the gas prices, we have to look at where right now, as we transition as we transition to an energy independence, we have to look in terms of how, in the short term, we can deal with the supply situation. Our president has restarted some of the major oil supplies in order to tackle that problem while we transition in the longer run to other sources of energy. So I think it's going to take time, but meanwhile, in order to alleviate the short-term situation, we have to tackle the supply. And I agree with the other speakers that people are suffering these days. They're actually owning their personal belongings to put gas in their cars.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Munir. Ms. Tashan, what is your solution?
Well, I mean, I was pumping gas the other day in my car, and the person across me was cussing out the gas pump. So we see just when we walk out there how serious this problem is. Our economy is such a dynamic system. There are so many conditions and variables that affect it, and so no one single person or event causes this, but events are driving up our gas prices. We definitely need to lift the gas tax for a considerable amount of time, just so we can feel like we're doing something to alleviate the gas prices. However, the climate crisis is also a very pressing issue, not only in our region here or country, but in the whole world. So we need to make sure that we have a variety of energy solutions that's not piled onto one energy source. We have to have multifaceted solutions that include solar, wind, water. We need to be moving to other sources of energy. Also, we need to be thinking about this. We have a short-term solution. We have to think about the long-term effects.
Thank you very much. Mr. Bracey, I'm interested in hearing your response because, as you know, under a legislative and the governor's decision to reduce the tax or remove the tax temporarily in Florida, first of all, is that going to do anything? But on a federal level, what's your plan?
Well, I think we have to look at all alternative sources for energy. We have to continue developing our independence on energy. I think that it was talked about the instability in Ukraine. I think we have to really double down in focusing on that situation because it's obviously having an effect on gas prices. We have to hold gas companies accountable, but there are many other things going on in this economy that I hear about from people. I mean, the rising cost of a home, just groceries. So, the gas prices along with the other prices that are going up is really a tough situation for people to deal with. So I think you have to have a person who has the experience to deal with multiple issues at the same time. And I've obviously shown that. I've passed more bills than any Democrat in this state, brought more money home. So I have the experience working in a bipartisan way to get things done.
Ms. Brown, what exactly is your plan?
Okay, let me say again, transportation. And being in Central Florida, we've got to figure out how to move people out of their cars into mass transit. I have already authorized a train from New Orleans to Orlando, tourist destination to tourist destination. But in addition to that, it will move people out of harm's way in case of another Katrina. So we've got to look at ways to impact the transportation system in Central Florida. When I say $1 billion for Sunrail, that just did not happen. That's more money. We used to get hundreds of millions of dollars in transportation from the federal government. When the transportation bill passed, it's just sitting there. We need to implement it. We need to put people to work.
Can I say something? It's highly unlikely that we're going to get all of these people into leaving their cars to go to mass transit. Not a lot of people ride Sunrail. So I appreciate the former Congresswoman's ideas, but this is the economy that we have. People riding cars, and we have to fix this problem with the gas prices.
Ms. Brown, would you like to respond to that? People are not going to get out of cars?
Listen, we've got to come up with ways to move people, goods, and services. If you're on Interstate 4, the congestion. You've got to figure out a way to do it. And that's why when we did the new transportation mode, we put in opportunities to put high speed into, we started the transportation high speed system in this country, and now we're the caboose. We need to be into mass trains and moving people, goods, and services, period.
All right.
And with benefit, and when you talk about $1 billion for Sunrail, well, we need to encourage people to use it.
All right, Ms. Brown,
to
thank
work
you.
with
Well,
the companies
Ms. Brown, we'll get back to you. We sure
Yes.
will. All right. Mr. Gray, the original question was, but it appears to have now morphed into a general transportation question. So take it away. What's your plan to make it all cheaper for us to get from point A to point B?
Point A to point B is simply this: alternative energy, which has been stated in multiple times, and I celebrate it. But the dilemma for us is we're right now locked down by being focused on one area of support. I think we have to take the time to look at the reserves of resources of which we have that allows us to deflate, bring it down. Look at the taxation that we're putting on gas prices, bring it down. And begin ultimately this, Greg, we've got to have conversation. You got great minds here and you're hearing a lot of things. How can we pull ourselves together to start listening to each other so we can create the best possible solution for the working class people?
Mr. Frost, what exactly is your solution to either lowering gas prices or some other fix?
Well, what we know to be true is this: oil companies are seeing record-setting profits while working class people are paying more at the pump, which is inhibiting people from going to work, from going to school, from living their life. Right. So that's the first thing. First things first, our record oil companies are having those record profits. The next thing we got to look at is what can we do for relief right now? People need help right now. First thing, the federal government needs to suspend the gas tax. I would be a fierce advocate to ensure that that is done because people need some sort of relief now. And that is a lever that the federal government can pull to give people that relief. We need to release significantly more oil from the strategic reserve. President Biden has already done this in good numbers. We need more because people need relief right now. And then the third thing is the federal government can actually help people by subsidizing the cost of gas. That's something that I'd be an advocate for as well. Here's the next step. We got to look at the future. And folks have already brought this up. I'll say it again. The lesson we must learn from this crisis, because it's a crisis, is that we have to step away from our dependence on oil. Less reliance on fossil fuels is going to save money, but save our planet as well.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Frost. And Mr. Grayson, finally, actually, Mr. Frost brings up kind of an interesting thing. And I don't know if in your experience previously in Congress this came up, but, we've been subsidizing the making of ethanol for people that provide materials that we've been supplementing and subsidizing farming in many areas for a year. What about the idea of subsidizing to lower gas prices or any other solution you might have? What are you thinking?
Okay, my first solution is what I said before, which is to eliminate, not to suspend, but eliminate the federal gas tax. My second solution is to eliminate the state gas tax as well, which is even larger than the federal gas tax. And the way you do that at the federal level is you say you're not going to get any federal highway funds if you impose a state gas tax on your own citizens. And then the purse strings get pulled, and that's exactly what follows. The third thing that I would do is what I've discussed before, which is lower tolls. People care about the cost of driving, not the cost of gas in isolation. And as I indicated before, I leave Congress and what happens? Suddenly we have tolls on I-4, something that I tried to prevent. And then beyond that, we have tolls on a road 408 that was paid for 30 or 40 years ago. The cost of driving is what's too high, not simply the cost of gas. Beyond that, we haven't increased the corporate average fuel economy, the CAFE standards, since the Obama administration, and they need to go up. Other countries get 50 or 60 miles per gallon from the cars that they use, and we get 20 or 30. There's
all right, thank you.
To increase supply, and we desperately need a windfall profits tax against oil.
All right, you can borrow from the next question because I'm going to continue on with Mr. Grayson and work across another mix of candidates for this next question.
Greg, can I just intervene there? I just want to clarify something. Maybe I'm wrong. That Mr. Grayson keeps pointing out to the roads, but the state roads are actually the state owns the toll roads, not the federal government. Am I right?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Munir points out something that is probably hard for some people to wrap their minds around. Interstate 4 is a federal highway, but the fact that they used the median right-of-way in the center to put 4 lanes into it allowed them to do a public-private partnership for maintenance of the road over the next 40 years and to collect tolls outside of federal government purview. But
That's
Mr.
right.
Grayson
Congressman Micah did that. Congressman Micah, I remember he did that for the 4 lanes.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, we're getting a little off track here. Let's get back in our lane, as they say. Okay, I would like to talk about enriching and improving District 10. Let's talk about District 10 for a while. We've got a median household income in Orange County of somewhere in the neighborhood of $63,000 a year. A lot of that is boosted for a family of 4. A lot of that is boosted by the fact that we do have some high incomes in Orange County, but we also have Orange County in about 15% poverty. People are living below the poverty line. So let's stick with Mr. Grayson, and then we'll move it all around here. What exactly is the best idea to get better paying jobs, more industry in there, and maybe get away from some of our tourism related service jobs?
To bring home the bacon, and I think that Congresswoman Brown, who worked with me to do this, and we both worked together on many occasions, can validate this. There are enormous untapped resources that get tapped only when you reach for them from the federal government. That's what I did. In my first year in office in Congress, I doubled the amount of federal competitive grant money coming into the district by $100 million, an additional $100 million that came to Orlando and to downtown Orlando and to nonprofits and small businesses and schools all around Orlando, simply because we fought for it. And that's what you have to do. That's exactly what's needed here. And we did that over and over again. Congresswoman Brown already mentioned the VA hospital. She mentioned Sunrail Phase 1, which she did herself, and Sunrail Phase 2, which we worked on together with Congressman Micah. These were billion-dollar projects when you put all the money together. Each highway project is often between $100 million and $500 million, each significant highway project. And there's all sorts of ways to bring money in. One of my great accomplishments in Congress is that the unemployment rate in my district in Orange County went down below the statewide average for the first time in 20 years in my first year in office.
All right, I think that was a bell. Okay. Maxwell Frost, same question. I have listened to your passion about gun control. I want to hear about how passionate you are about boosting the economy in Orange County.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said at the last question, there are many different things that need to be done at the same time to ensure that we're boosting up the wages people are making, and ensuring that people are able to rent, but are able to own as well. I mean, my generation is looking to be the generation that owns the least amount of property of any. But I want to talk about healthcare, because the fact of the matter is there are so many people in this district who don't have healthcare because the United States has failed to provide a basic social minimum to all of our citizens. And that is healthcare. I am a champion of something called Medicare for All. That says we take a system that is already extremely popular, Medicare, and we expand it 5 years every year until everybody is covered. So that way, no matter who you are, you don't have to choose between being healthy and going broke. And this is an issue that's going to put more money in the pockets of our citizens. No co-pays, no deductibles, no premiums, just their long-term care so you can be proactive and don't have to end up in the hospital. We don't have a healthcare system in this country. We have a sickness care system in this country. And I aim to be a champion to ensure that every man, woman, and child has the care they deserve and need.
And thank you. Mr. Gray, what are your thoughts on developing more economic drive in our county?
Let me take your mind back, Greg. You remember we had the oversight committee watching over the venues that were here inside of our city and our area. I was blessed to be on the oversight committee. It was when I was a part of the oversight committee that I realized that while we got major dollars coming in from different parts or from the government, which I think we can work on for venues and for road improvement and et cetera, it is the division of those resources that really begins the process of helping our economy. Seriously, my heart aches knowing that we really set aside 18% under the terminology minority, which is not true, because any person can really become a minority now. Instead of us looking at the word parity, a division of our ethnicities to empower all persons to be a part of projects to lift the economy and the wealth divide within our community. That's a major part that I'm working on, sir.
All right, Ms. Jackson, 1 minute. What exactly is your plan?
So as I said, my plan and my goal is always be to bring money back home to Central Florida. I believe that Mr. Grayson talked about the grants that are available, the federal matching dollars that are available. I want to tap into that with the infrastructure bill that was just paid. I want to help small businesses grow and encourage the formation of new successful businesses. We need to bring high-paying, high-tech jobs and businesses here to Central Florida. And we can do that within the infrastructure bill. We can encourage green energy within the infrastructure bill and the formations of jobs around that, around the transformation to green energy. I want to modernize our roads and our bridges. I want to make sure that we're giving jobs to people to do this within District 10 and make sure that the people in District 10 are working to do this. And so those are mine. This is the investment in our country that we need, and it's the investment that we need in District 10.
All right, Mr. Grayson, you owe Ms. Jackson a $5 bill because she just gave you a free 45 seconds since you mentioned your name. Go ahead.
You're welcome.
Well, I want to give you an example that's never been written about, never been covered on any of the local news stations. I got the National Travel Promotion Bill passed in my first year in Congress, and that is $50 million that the U.S. government spends each year to promote vacation travel to the United States. Half of which comes to this district. So listen, I was thinking about exactly what you're describing. What would it take to get more money into this district? Our strength is our tourism. And I came up with a $50 million a year boost for that just by passing a single bill that nobody knows about. And I passed in the middle of the night. That's the kind of creativity and force that it takes to actually build a good economy here. Next thing I'm going to work on bringing a Federal Reserve Bank to Orlando. The closest one is Atlanta. That's $200 million a year.
All right, your free 45 seconds is up there. All right, thank you very much. Ms. Tashawn, your economic plan.
Well, I've mentioned earlier, I'm a teacher, and my daughter is a registered nurse in the emergency room in the big hospital down here in Orlando. And these two fields right here, teachers and nursing, these are two fields with extreme shortages and people leaving the field. Well, and these are our frontline essential workers, and we have to do something to raise the incomes of people in these fields.
Okay, Ms. Jackson, 1 minute, please.
Yeah,
you already did it. I'm sorry. Hold on. You're getting me confused here. That's right. Yeah.
I'll go again.
We'll get to Mr. Boone. Go ahead, Mr. Munir. I know you were starting to talk at the beginning of this. Sorry, I need a scorecard.
Thank you, Greg. I've served as on the executive committee of the Orlando Economic Development Commission, on the executive committee, and then on the board. So I'm privy to a lot of information that's on. We have a lot of high-tech industry here, right at UCF. The high-tech simulation center in UCF is one of the best, not only in the country, but in the world. So we have been attracting high-tech jobs for years. What we really need is that we've been marketing Orange County in a way that wasn't suitable. In other words, attracting industry by marketing ourselves as a low-cost labor center. So I think we need to focus on getting away from that and attracting industry by marketing ourselves as having the right skilled labor force. We have something like 300,000 students within 100 miles of Orlando. So we have all the resources here in order to travel. What we need to work on is on the.
All right, very good. Mr. Bracey, your economic plan.
Well, I think it's great that all of these people are putting forth ideas, talk about what they have done. I can tell you what I'm doing currently. Right now, I just negotiated a $15 an hour raise for all state employees. So right now, every state employee starting July 1st will get a $15 an hour salary. That has never been done. I did that just in this past legislative session. So I appreciate all of these things about what they have done or what they will done. I'm doing the work right now. Right now, you can go and get a $25,000 down payment for a home. Right now, every other Saturday, you can go to the church that my parents started, New Covenant Baptist Church. You can go on Saturday, do a class, and you can sign up for that $25,000. You can get up to $50,000 right now for a program I'm sponsoring to help with your mortgage, your utilities. So I appreciate all of these ideas, but no one's done the work that I've done and what I'm doing right now. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Brown, your economic plan.
Okay, it's going to go back to transportation. When I was elected in 1993, every dollar we sent to Washington, we got 77 cents back. I led the fight to change the formula. That went to 92 cents. That was $5 billion for transportation the first year. When you look at, for 25 years, we tried to get a VA hospital in Orlando. I became ranking member of veterans. We hadn't built a VA hospital in this country in 15 years. I built 9 and 1 in Orlando, which is one of the best VA hospitals in the country. All of this is economic development, and all of this put people to work.
All right, and Mr. Boone, 1 minute.
Yes, I'm in favor of tax incentives for companies investing in our communities, creating jobs, economic development, real estate, public housing, and investing in our communities, hiring local residents as well as people from urban and rural areas though. We have tax incentives to attract companies to the state of Florida. We have some of the best incentives to do that. And we also have no income tax for employees. So we can create jobs by utilizing our tax incentives. We can also lower the tax rate for small businesses as well as women and minority-owned businesses too. We need job training for people returning to work, millennials, veterans, being able to help them move from our mainstay industries of tourism and hospitality to other fast-growing, high-wage industries such as high-tech, IT, healthcare, aerospace, defense, marine biology, other areas where we can start diversifying, helping people expand their skills. I've heard talk about infrastructure. The infrastructure bill will create jobs by hiring people for roads, bridges, and tunnels, but not every progressive on this call would have voted for it, and we wouldn't have it. I want to know how Mr. Frost and other people from that wing would have voted for the infrastructure bill, because the people in that wing voted against it, and it was up to bipartisan support to bring it home for us. So they're talking about jobs they would have given for infrastructure bill for a bill they would have voted against.
Okay, Mr. Frost, you got 45 seconds to address that comment.
Definitely. Well, first off, I would have voted for the infrastructure bill. I would have voted for that bill.
However, voted against the progressive wing?
See, here's the problem with politics these days, y'all. People are trying to paint you into different wings. People want to put you in a box. But what we know about the problems we're facing right here in this district, when gas prices are high, when people are dying due to gun violence, people don't have health care, so wages are the same, prices are going up. It's not about what wing you're about. Yes, I have a progressive agenda, but this movement is about bringing people together around common shared values. Yes, I would have voted for the infrastructure bill. I also would have fighted to pass Build Back Better, because you can ask any county commissioner, any city council member, any mayor, and they would have said, we could have used that money to help the people. So it's not always a black or white thing, right? We can fight for what we believe in, and we can also vote for the things we know are going to bring money back to our district. And that's why I'm running for Congress.
All right. And I may have missed something. Mr. Bracey, did Mr. Boone also mention you?
I'm not sure, but can I just respond anyway?
Yeah,
though? I hear all of this talk about these different ideals, Build Back Better, just all of these ideas about what is happening in Congress, which is important, but like, what are they going to do for District 10? I'm currently bringing home money for people right now, nonprofits all over this district. Like I said, I just raised the minimum wage. Like, all of these ideas are great, but like District 10 needs help right now. And
I think there's been some inadequate economic development in areas of your district. particularly the food desert right there in Paramore. Where can we get companies like Walmart and Target to open locations, utilize those tax incentives to open up a location there and hire people, bring jobs, bring food? There's some things that are lacking in those areas that you're talking about that you resided over for the last 10 years. Lacking affordable housing, public housing, after-school programs, but especially on the economic front, there's a lot more to be done, and the people deserve a lot more.
All right, I'm going to give Mr. Bracey 45 seconds to respond to that, and then I'm going to expand this conversation to the other candidates. Go ahead, Mr. Bracey.
Well, I think when you talk about economic development, I've talked with Publix, I talk with Walmart. If you know business, you know that businesses have to do their due diligence to see if if a business can make money in a certain area. So I've done my due diligence trying to bring those companies to Paramore, what have you. What we have done is filled in the gap. We have food distributions every other week. We've been doing it for the past 2 years. So we've been feeding this community. We've been working on this community, working on behalf of this community. We've been bringing back a lot of dollars for this community to thrive.
I want to ask Mr. Gray. I mean, a part of District 10 involves communities, low income, struggling. How do you convince, and maybe in a congressional role, how do you convince major businesses like a Publix, like a Walmart, like somebody to come into a neighborhood so that people can have food sustainability and so forth?
I think it goes back again to something I said earlier, Greg, and that is conversation, relationship building. We've been doing that here at St. Mark. I hear what has been lifted. We have partnered with other churches and other ministries in the same way, going out to institutions such as Publix, going out to institutions as the Walmart, to ask them to not only for their products to be utilized serviceably inside of our communities where we serve, but also begin having conversations for them to move into our area, for which we've been able to see. It's going to take, again, a long journey of conversation, relationship building, trust building, so we can bring those opportunities into the community. We have been doing it as a pastor and with other pastors, but we can extend it largely to a larger base to enhance it for the totality of the community.
Excuse me, I want to jump in for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because
go ahead,
when you
Brown.
talk about economic development and you mentioned Publix, I was instrumental in getting Publix to come into the neighborhood. When I first went to Congress, Publix was not in any of our communities. In addition to that, they had no Black employees. They had no women employees. So when they came to, I mean, not employees, I'm talking about managers. I'm talking about people at the top. So when they came to Washington and met with the Florida delegation, and they are in Tampa, Florida, that's the headquarters. I said, well, and they were going to Atlanta. I said, let me tell you, you better have a different program, because in Atlanta, they burned down the stores. It's very important that the companies that's in our community is responsible to our community. And let me mention Disney. When I was in the State House, they first was expanding the Epcot. I brought one of the first groups from the University of Florida students to the opening of Epcot. Economic development, you got to work with the company.
That is a minute, Ms. Brown. Ms. Tashawn, what about that? How do we get companies to want to be in and do business in neighborhoods that are challenged?
Well, I mean, we have to work on housing, and we have to build affordable housing, and it has to be placed in different areas around the entire city. And also on the floor in Congress right now is the Lift Home Buyers Act, which is going to offer really low rate 20-year loans for to help people build equity into their homes. But we need to get these homes built, and we need to build affordable housing and place them all around this city.
Okay, Mr. Munir. So I'm hearing from some. So if we get the housing that will get, if we get the jobs, they'll help the people afford the housing that can move into neighborhoods that are struggling. We might attract more business, and we might also boost our wages. What are your thoughts on some of that?
Greg, I've been in the real estate brokerage business for the last 25 years. So affordable housing is one of the things that I focus on. Right now, the issue is that you have to look at both sides. In other words, there's a demand for housing and there's a supply shortage. So one of the issues is that nobody has really paid any significant attention to how we solve that problem. There are more than one way to solve that problem. One of the ways to do that is to ease the restrictions on building multi-families. So in other words, when you have a location where you can put one housing, give people the developer the permission to put 5 units. So in other words, that 5 families can be accommodated. So we have to increase the supply of housing somehow. And that I don't see that problem being solved in the near future. And that's a problem that has to be solved at the federal level by easing restrictions on interest rate, encouraging developers to build more housing, etc. So it's an issue that does not have any short term, but we have to start somewhere because it's getting worse.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Grayson, your thoughts on this?
Well, first, businesses are going to go where the money is. That's stating the obvious. If they can make $1 from serving the community, then they will. So the question is, what do you do to uplift the entire community? And you do the things that I was discussing. Before it was mentioned that soon state employees are going to benefit from $15 an hour across the board. Well, I was the first member of Congress to write a bill. And by the way, I wrote more bills and passed more bills than any other member of Congress, even though I was a Democrat and the Republicans were in charge at the time. One of the bills that I wrote, I was not able to get buy-in from the Republicans for, which was a national minimum wage for all federal employees and federal contractors. Well, lo and behold, it's a few years later now. And just this past month, President Biden instituted that Grayson plan by executive order across the entire federal government. And by the way, that affects 30 times more workers than the $15 an hour minimum wage instituted by the state of Florida. So what you do is you put money in people's pockets, you let them earn the full benefit of their pay. You don't tax away their pay from dollar number one, and then the businesses will come to you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grayson. I believe Ms. Jackson, I don't know that you've weighed in on this, have you?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
And we're talking about how do we get businesses to come into the
I think it's two separate discussions. You know, earlier we talked about trying to raise wages, and I think now we're really talking about trying to bring more business into communities so that they can have, among other things, food sustainability.
Right. So we have to make communities safer. We have to make sure that the residents can afford the businesses that are coming into the community. I agree with Mr. Grayson. Businesses go where the money is. So this is a multifaceted problem that we need to address. We need to address quality education. We need to address healthcare. We need to address making sure that people have livable wages. We need to make sure that they have affordable housing. So once we address these things, then businesses will come.
I think that's a good way to segue into our next question. So I'm going to stick with
Mr. Fox, I brought it up, but I didn't get the chance to speak on it. I brought it up as a question for others, but I never got the chance to speak on it.
I typically view people bringing it up as being their chance to speak on it, but Mr. Boone, I'll give you 30 seconds here, and then I'm going to go back to Ms. Jackson for another question here.
Not only do you have to have the business acumen to be able to negotiate with businesses, but you also have to do exactly what Ms. Jackson talked about. Before anybody's going to invest, you have to make sure a neighborhood's safe. Otherwise, a developer and investor is worried about, will the next protest get my business burned down? So we need to make sure neighborhoods are safe. And then we also need to make sure we can talk business to businesses. And I have that background in business and finance as a treasurer and a banker. But you have to be able to understand how to address their needs to want to invest in the community, and then be able to hire people with training and giving them those tax incentives to do it.
Okay. All right. So,
Greg, real quick, I just wanted to mention, it was talked about job training. I've developed a partnership with Valencia to have job training specifically in the areas that we talked about, so that there can be the workforce for the businesses that we're trying to recruit. And I've done that.
Okay. Ms. Jackson,
I would like to address this because I was mentioning this on safety. When I mention safety in a neighborhood, I'm talking about making sure that there's no violence in the neighborhood, making sure that kids can go to school safely, making sure that people don't have to worry about their houses being broken into, making sure that they're not over policed in these neighborhoods, making sure that the homes are safe. I'm not talking about protesting, burning down businesses, because I don't think that that's happened in District 10.
Okay, so this is where we're going to launch into our next topic here. We'll start with Ms. Jackson since you brought it up first. There is going to be, and there is currently, because of the recent mass shootings that we've had, a new round of discussions about what can get through Congress. You know, what can get through a Senate when it comes to either gun reform, gun control, whatever you want to call it. But I think that a lot of that violence, being gun violence, has a lot of cities and counties, not only in Florida, but nationally, looking at ways and maybe looking for some guidance on the federal level from Congress. So Ms. Jackson, what exactly is, I think it's one thing to say we want to ban assault weapons, ban large capacity magazines, and on the other side of the aisle, let's say you're taking away my Second Amendment rights. What can get done that will make a difference that you would support?
Okay, so this is where my legal background comes in. In 2008, the Supreme Court in Hale v. District of Columbia, they said that the Second Amendment protected the right of handguns. So that's off the table. People are allowed to have guns, but the courts did leave open a wide range of gun regulations that can be considered. So even in Florida in 2008, after the Parkland school shootings, the Republican-led legislature, they implemented limitations on gun ownership, such as raising the minimum age, the 3-day waiting period, banning bump stocks. And that bill was good. And on the federal level, we need to make sure that we have the background checks for buying not only guns, but for ammunition. I think that if we also enter into these public-private partnerships with insurance companies by requiring insurance on guns, the insurance company will do the job, because as you know, with your car, if you're not doing right with your car, the insurance company's not going to insure you. And we also have to realize that gun violence, is that my bell?
Yeah, that's your bell. I think we're
Greg, can I respond to that? Because she mentioned the state passing a gun bill, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And so I would say thank you for that acknowledgement, because I was the only Democrat to have an amendment on that bill. I was the only Democrat that shaped the bill that we see today, which is a model for the rest of the state. We put in red flag laws. We put in a minimum age for buying guns. Again, I was the only Democrat to have shaped that bill. So thank you, Natalie, for that.
You're welcome.
Did you vote against that? I'm sorry.
Hold on. I'm going to say that because
did he vote against that bill? He voted against the Marjorie Stoneman bill.
Okay, we're gonna get to it. First of all, let's clarify. She didn't mention you by name, so Mr. Bracey, I'm gonna give you another 30 seconds to continue your comment, but I'm not gonna consider that a rebuttal. I'm gonna move on to somebody else. Go ahead, you have 30 more seconds.
Again, I was the only Democrat to get an amendment on that bill. Ultimately, I thought he could go further, but again, I was the only Democrat in the Florida legislature, House or Senate, who shaped that bill.
But the question was, what can, and if you're elected to Congress, what can you support that would reasonably make a difference in any regard when it comes to gun safety?
Sure.
As a member of Congress.
Ms. Brown, we'll get back to you. Go ahead,
Okay.
Mr. Bracey.
Yeah, I just proposed, I was on the news where I proposed a 3-point plan, something very simple, but you know, we can use some of the things that was in the Florida law that we passed, the red flag laws, for example, that was in the law that was passed in the legislature that I think is a reasonable step for Congress. I put in there to have like a character test when a person is getting a gun. They have to have a person vouch for them, like 2 other people when they're buying a gun. These are just simple steps to test to their mental health.
All right.
You know, so.
All right. And Mr. Boone, we're going to go to you next. Go ahead, and then we'll go to Ms. Brown.
Right. I'm in favor of tighter gun control, school security, safety, banning bump stocks, raising the minimum age to 21, a 3-day waiting period. I'm in favor of everything that we got in that Republican bill. But I'm puzzled because if I'm not mistaken, Senator Bracey unwisely voted against the bill that he claims he put an amendment to. So you've added an amendment to something you voted against entirely, which is more than what we're getting at the federal level. So how can you vote for something at the federal level that you voted against at the state level, and you also unwisely voted for open carry on state campuses? So
No, that's correct.
It's almost like that
Correct.
all or nothing mentality.
That's incorrect.
We got 5 out of 6 things. The Republicans got 1, allowing the teachers to receive training to be armed. We got 5 things: banning bump stacks, minimum wage, 3-day waiting period, $400 million for school security. We tightening gun control, but we didn't get all that we wanted. So we're going to take our football and go home with nothing to protect the people. That's what happened there. You can't say you added an amendment to something you voted against. And then would you vote for it in Congress?
Actually, I can't.
That's what I'm concerned about.
Can't.
If you got
I
in
did.
Congress, you'd vote against it and our people would not be protected.
All right, you got
Right.
45 seconds, Mr. Bracey. Go ahead.
If you will look, I am the only Democrat who got an amendment onto that bill. There was over 100 amendments offered by Democrats that all of them were denied, except the one amendment that I proposed, which shaped the bill. And I was behind the scenes pushing for more. Those bump stocks that you're talking about, those were my ideas. Obviously, I've sponsored banning ARs. We cannot get those into that. But as far as that bill went, that was me. Okay.
Why did you vote against it?
Ultimately, so ultimately, I am responsible for a lot of what's in that bill. And so I appreciate you on the sidelines. A lot of people can talk about what they would have done. But
I'm sorry. I would like an answer to the question. Did you vote against the bill that contained your amendment?
I do it all the time. I mean, it's a part of the legislature.
Okay.
There are certain things that I would like to push for. I come to an agreement with Republicans on what they may agree to, but ultimately, I felt like it wasn't enough.
And
All
if
right.
it weren't for other Democrats and Republicans, we'd have no safety.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Boone and Mr. Bracey. We're going to move on so we can include everybody else here too. Ms. Brown, I believe I said you were next. Go ahead. 1 minute. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. What do you think can get done in Washington? Maybe not what you want, but what you can get.
But let me just say that in 1994, I voted for the assault ban weapon and it passed. And that should be a part of it again. Clearly, 18, it should be 21 years old before you can buy a gun. And why would you need an assault weapon? Why would you need an assault weapon to hunt or to protect yourself? That was invented for military style. So clearly there is a problem in this country that don't exist in other places. And you can talk about mental health counseling. Yes, that's important, but we need to do more. We need to do more. When you look at the number of shootings that goes on in this country, it needs to stop.
All right, Maxwell Frost, 1 minute. This was part of your opening statement, so tell us more.
You know, this is an issue I've been working on for 10 years, and it's personal to me because I'm a survivor of gun violence, right? This has touched me personally. And I'm honored in this race to have been endorsed by Gabby Gifford's organization, Giffords, and Brady, and Newtown Action Alliance, and folks like David Hogg. People who have been doing this work believe that our candidacy can make a difference on this. So right now, we need to pass universal background checks and extreme risk protection orders, otherwise known as red flag laws. We don't like to call them red flag laws in the movement. These are things that can save lives now. The red flag laws, the ERPOs that were passed here in the state, which I helped pass as a member of March for Our Lives, have been used over 6,000 times.
How? How did you help pass it?
And we need to continue to pass legislation like this and come together. We need preventative measures as well. At March for Our Lives, I was at the table and helped secure $6 billion with President Biden and Build Back Better, even though it didn't ultimately pass. That's the President of the United States who's saying we need to invest in creative community violence intervention measures. I plan on being a champion for that in Congress.
Sorry,
Mr.
Greg.
Mr. Bracey brings up, can you be more specific about how exactly you helped to pass the Parkland Act?
The day after Parkland happened, the day after I drove to Parkland, it was about 2 a.m. To get with all the students who were the founders of that movement to figure out how we move forward. I remember going to Tallahassee and us meeting with legislators and us staging sit-ins and us staging die-ins and us doing everything we could do in that movement that changed the whole country and the way people thought about guns and the way things happen. And so I'm honored to have played a part in making that difference and passing ERPOs, which we fought to get into that bill by being organizers and activists and people who were impacted by gun violence. We were there for about 2 months.
Let me say this, with all due respect, you specifically had no impact on this bill. This was hammered out. I was there as the bill was being written. I hammered it out with some of my other Republican colleagues, and the product that you see was a result of the negotiations that I did with my colleagues. So I appreciate, and let me just say, the movement is important, but this was the skill and the experience of a legislator that's been doing this for a while that was able to pass this. So thank you.
Mr. Frost, you get 45 more seconds courtesy of Mr. Bracey. Go ahead.
I would just say this. What we got in this state as far as gun violence prevention measures, I would argue would not have even started, would not have come to fruition if it wasn't for the students who stood up in wake of their mass shooting and said, we call BS, we deserve better. So I appreciate you doing your job, right? But we also have to pay homage to the folks who started the movement that even got us to the place that we could talk about guns. A bill like that would not have even been thought of before the students in the movement changed this country. And I'm honored.
I appreciate you.
I am honored.
Gentlemen, we're gonna move on to at least 3 other candidates here.
Fox,
we may circle back, but we're gonna move on to
He
Mr.
brought me back into it, Greg. If I could just say, with all due respect, I appreciate the movement, but it was about the students that were killed, and that's why we moved to pass the bill.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Grayson. Sorry, gentlemen. Hold on.
Greg, I haven't jumped in all day.
I had a question for Mr. Frost, because I know what it's like to be a victim of gun violence, with a man putting a gun to my head and robbing me, taking everything and threatening gun violence to rob me. Can he help us to better understand how he was a victim of gun violence? Because so many people out there are true victims.
All right, Mr. Frost, I'm going to give you 30 seconds to hit this, and then we're going to move on. We've got other candidates. Go ahead.
For sure. And I'm not a victim of gun violence. I'm a survivor of gun violence, like many other folks. And I'll tell you, I've been in this work for 10 years, never counted myself as a survivor till I became the national organizing director at March for Our Lives and got to meet other folks and found out it's not always the same story. For me, it was downtown Orlando on Halloween, my friends and I hanging out. And 2 guys had a problem. They were arguing over a girl, and I was standing right next to them, and one took out a gun and started shooting. I remember my friend falling on the floor and freezing, me having to pick her up with my best friend running to our car. We sat there, thought about it, and moved on. And I didn't think about it for years until I was in a room with other survivors talking about the different ways gun violence impacts our lives. And it looks and feels different for everybody. And that's why this issue requires holistic solutions that impact everybody who's been involved.
So you weren't wounded, you were actually in the vicinity.
Mr. Boone, thanks. Mr. Grayson, go ahead. What would you do, and what do you think can actually pass in Congress?
All right. Well, the basic problem is that it's too easy to kill too many people too quickly. I was the congressman from Orlando when the Pulse nightclub shooting took place, and almost 50 people were killed, and most of them were killed in less than 4 minutes. Guns just work too quickly. We hear a lot about the right to own a gun and the Heller decision. What about the right to run away? What about that? What we need more than anything is the Freedom from Fear Act that I wrote and introduced to Congress, which is to reinstate the assault weapons ban that Corrin Brown voted for, that lapsed after 10 years. During that time, when it wasn't so easy to shoot so many people so quickly, there was a 50% drop in mass shootings, just from that one provision alone. And there's more that we could do, for sure. We do need to make gun manufacturers liable. They have immunity under the law right now. That's something we need to do. We need to make sure that when you shoot 10 or 12 bullets, you just have to take the time to reload and give those people you're shooting at a sporting chance to get away.
Okay.
Let me just say one thing. I was the member of Congress during the time of the Pulse nightclub shooting also. And I took the part of the lead in helping to bring the community together. And Trayvon Martin happened on my watch also. So we've had a gun violence problem in this country for a very long time. And we need to work together on many issues on how to solve it. Education is a key, but there are many keys on what we need to do.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brown.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Tishan, what exactly can realistically pass on your watch if you're sent to DC?
Okay, education is the key. I want to bring it to our children. In our public schools, we're doing drills all the time. We have fire drills, severe weather drills, and these days we have active assailant drills. Think about our 5 and 6 and 7-year-old students that are doing these drills. Many of these children are terrified, but this is what our reality is today. And these drills are absolutely necessary. Gun violence has become an epidemic, and many families are affected by this. We do not need more children getting slaughtered in schools. We don't need more people getting killed in grocery stores. The weapon that was used at Uvalde it left children unidentifiable. So we have to implement the assault weapons ban. And we had the ban in place in the 1990s. We have to re-implement that.
All right, Mr. Gray, 1 minute, please.
I'm totally supporting fighting as hard as possible against assault weapons, but I also raise the following ask. In essence, we got to pay attention to age. We got to also pay attention to the sanity of the individuals, and we also got to pay attention to kin, which means who are they tied to and connected to. I also want to have this opportunity to say to my colleagues who make up this conference today, if we were not having feet on the ground to address major issues, things will not happen in legislative branches. So we have to take under consideration, as a pastor, I've been on the ground, as other persons who work in social communities, they've been on the ground, and sometimes things never move unless we have an appreciation for both parties working together. That's the other thing, Greg, that has to come to this, is collaboration of communication. I keep going back to that, collaboration of communication in order for the work to get done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gray. Mr. Munir, please wrap this up.
You know, the Pulse is right here in District 10, and we have first-hand experience of gun violence. Now, it's important that we focus on gun safety and responsible gun ownership. In this country, 5% of the population, and yet we own 50% of the weapons in the world. And we have 5% of the world. The thing is that it's not a Democratic issue and it's not a Republican issue. It is an American issue. So it needs both groups in both parties to come together. Those children of us that are dying, their parents are Republican, they're Democrat, they're independent. So we have to make this an American issue. We have school shooting every 3 weeks in this country right now. We have a shootings going on every day. And the responsibility really rests with the gun owners. So we need more responsible gun owners and education in order to curb this violence.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Munir.
With this, if I could address something really quickly with this, sometimes what the legislature won't do, the courts have to do. So Mr. Bracey talks about, what he's done and what we haven't done, but I will tell you that I'm working with Attorney Ben Crump right now to sue gun manufacturers, which is something that Alan Grayson just said. I'm working to hold people who own guns responsible in these lawsuits. So when Congress won't act, the courts have to act. But really, the reason Congress doesn't act and legislation doesn't act is because they don't want to risk their political capital. And this is why we need people in Congress who are willing to do these things and make sure that Congress works for the people.
All right, I'll get to Mr. Grayson. Mr. Bracey, you get 45 seconds courtesy of Natalie Jackson. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what she said.
What did you say about Mr. Bracey? Go ahead, Ms. Jackson.
I said that I am working and outside of politics when legislatures doesn't.
Okay,
work.
I thought you mentioned. I thought you
We're
mentioned.
suing gun manufacturers. We're suing people who are responsible for the Buffalo shootings, and also activists and organizers. They do help. We cannot do this in a vacuum. We cannot do our work without activists, organizers, and protesters.
All right, I got that wrong. I thought Mr. Bracey was mentioned, but go ahead just quickly here so I can get to Mr. Grayson since he was mentioned.
Well, Mr. Grayson mentioned he represented Pulse. I represented Pulse also, and so I know he's run for so many different seats now. Like it's kind of hard to keep up. So I guess what I'm saying is, is his heart with District 10, seeing that he's run for so many different seats right now. It's kind of hard to keep up.
Okay, well, Mr. Grayson, go ahead.
I'd like to start with something a little more serious than Mr. Bracey's comment, which is Natalie's comment, and how you actually accomplish something like this. One way you accomplish this is to sit in, which is something that I did for 2 straight days in the House, and the Republicans folded and gave us a vote on gun control they've been refusing to give to us. Another way you do it is to shut the place down. In order to get the resolution passed by the House of Representatives to honor the Pulse nightclub victims, I had to shut the place down for 4 hours with 2 quorum calls, and then they caved in and finally gave me that vote on a resolution to honor the victims. And another way, which is a little less, shall I say, coercive than that, is to bring people together. I brought in a father of a victim of a drug overdose, sat down with him and with a Republican chairman. And as a result of that meeting, we got $140 million for drug overdose treatment, an entirely new federal program that appeared out of nowhere because of that one meeting between me and him. And as to what Senator Bracey said, listen, I have lived in this district for 17 years. How many of you can say that? Look around the screen here. How many of you can say you've lived in this?
All right. There
22 from me, Mr. Grayson.
Thank
22.
you. Thank you.
22.
5 for me.
Thank you.
22.
You can each solicit campaign contributions from each other after the debate.
Why were you running in other districts if you lived in this district 17 years?
What does that even mean to other districts? Haven't you noticed the maps change occasionally?
All right.
I represented only Orlando in Congress.
You can. Okay, we know. You guys can continue this afterwards. We're going to go in reverse order this time. You each have 1 minute to close. We're going to begin with Ms. Tishan. Take it away.
I am honored to be here today. I have spent 36 years as an educator, and I see running for office as a continuation of my service to my community. To be in Washington where a bill could save children's lives and improve the quality of public education. So I am stepping up to bring integrity, intelligence, and my dedicated work ethic to Congress. I consider myself a moderate, or what I call a common sense Democrat. I'm the mother of 2 beautiful daughters, and I am expecting my first granddaughter. And I know that before my time is up on earth, I need to be able to look her in the eyes and tell her that I did everything humanly possible to improve her quality of education, to protect her rights as a woman, and to keep her safe. Please vote for me, Teresa Tishan, for Congress. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Munir, 1 minute, please.
Okay. With my 17 years in banking and 30 years in business, what we need in Washington is somebody with my skills and experience, rather than a career politician. I'm Khalid Munir, and as your next congressman, as a fresh start for the brand new district, if you vote for me and get me elected, you will see the results. I will be the hardest working congressman this district has ever seen. I will be the congressional District 10 congressman, not Washington districts. I will carry your agenda and not the Washington's agenda. Priority number 1 will be constituent services and getting stuff done.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Jackson, 1 minute.
America is at a precipice. We've seen the tribalism, destruction, and chaos that happens when powerful and corrupt people create and exploit economic inequalities, racial divides, and fears of everyday people. We've also seen how our federal government can be rendered useless when cults of personality and extreme partisan politics takes precedence over common sense bipartisan litigation. I served almost a decade in the military because I believe in democracy. I love this melting pot of a country that my father died for in Vietnam and that my ancestors built. I do civil rights work because I believe in the ideals expressed in the Declaration of Independence. In 1967, Martin Luther King Jr. asked the question, where do we go from here, community or chaos? I'm running for Congress because we owe it to our children and we owe it to the future to choose community. I'm Natalie Jackson. You can find out about my campaign by visiting my website at nataliejacksonforcongress.com. And I hope you will support me in my bid to become the next Congresswoman of Florida District 10 by voting for me on August 23rd. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Grayson, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Look, the tolls are too damn high. The taxes are too damn high. The rent is too damn high. These are problems that need to be addressed and solved. Inflation can be beaten, but only if we elect leaders who are paying attention to it and are willing to take action against it no matter what. I'm that person. I was chosen as the most effective member of Congress. I passed 121 laws in 4 years, even though I was a Democrat and the Republicans were in charge. People talk about bipartisanship sometimes. There it is in effect, in action. Ways to bridge the gap in order to get good things done for people. Your vote is your power. Your power is your vote. You deserve and you should expect to have a congressman who will work hard to use the power of his office to do good things for you and for the people you care about and the people whom you love.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gray, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. Once again, my name is Terence Gray. I'm blessed to have been the pastor here at St. Mark for over 18 years. In that time frame, I've had an opportunity to work in and out of politics with politicians, as well as work inside of civic social communities events. I've served on task committees. I work whether it's county or whether it's a city. I watch things happen. My passion now is to now use that knowledge and implement it in a way that can help the people, my aging group, like my mama who's now longer with me, and my grandchildren who I'm looking out for in the future. If we begin teaching people that it's all right who you love, teaching people the value that it's all right for you to choose when it's time to be a parent, and at the same time being prepared to work hard to make sure our children are growing up in a safe environment, I believe we can begin making the difference. Ultimately, I think my name is Terrence Gray. I know it is. I'm offering myself to serve. Give me an opportunity on August 23rd to be your next congressman. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Frost, 1 minute, please.
Yeah, after Sandy Hook, I said I would work the rest of my life to build a world where no one would have to feel the pain of losing a loved one due to gun violence. We all felt that pain as a community when 49 angels were taken from us at Pulse nightclub. And we're all tired of feeling that pain. And we know that there's cycles that we need to end that cause it. And it's not just gun violence. It's the pain of going out without healthcare. It's the pain of going without housing. It's the pain of not having a job that pays enough. And we need to replace that pain with love. And we don't talk about love enough in politics, because when you love somebody, you want them to have healthcare. When you love somebody, you want them to have affordable housing and the things that they need to live their best lives. That is what this job should be about. And we're all raised to believe that we have to earn the right to be healthy. And I want everybody watching at home to know that you deserve health care. You deserve these good things by virtue of being a human being and nothing else. The late Barbara Jordan had it right. What the people want is simple: a country as great as its promise. God bless you all. Thank you very much. frostforcongress.com. We hope to have your support.
All right. Thank you very much. And you have 1 minute, Ms. Brown.
Thank you. We've heard a lot of people make a lot of promises today. A lot of people tell you what they hope to do. And that's the difference. I go to Congress to get things done right away because I've done it before. And when Trump, DeSantis, Rubio, and Rick Scott try to take us backwards, I'll fight to move us forward. I'm running to stand up to the Republican gerrymandering our state, to get assault weapons off our street, and to protect a woman's right to choose, and to stand up to our criminal justice system that is biased and broken. These are serious problems that require experience and leadership. I've done it before and I will do it again with the grace of God and your help. VoteCorrine.com.
All right, Mr. Bracey, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. Listen, people are talking about what they've done. People are talking about what they plan to do. No one on this call has faced the Republican regime that we are facing right now. And we appreciate the wins of the past, but this is a different beast. You're talking about Governor DeSantis and the entire Republican regime across the country that has pushed culture wars and different things harder than we've ever seen before. I'm the only person who has fought against it. I've fought against reproductive rights. I've fought against his attack on the LGBTQ community. I've fought against him targeting minority communities. I've fought against him fighting against a woman's right to choose. And I'm the only one in this kind of repressive environment to also pass laws more than any other Democrat in this state. And so with that, we're in a different fight than we were even 6 years ago, with all due respect to Representative Corrine and Representative Grayson. And I'm the only one that can fight this fight now and in the future.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bracey. Mr. Boone, wrap things up here with your closing statement, please.
Our district's future can't be left to questionable judgment or career politicians, and it can't be left to the youthful inexperience of young candidates beholden to out-of-state millionaire investors. I have over 30 years of work experience in finance and banking and can relate to people with families, jobs, wages, paying rent, paying mortgage, children's education, college tuition, healthcare, helping our young adult children find affordable housing and becoming financially independent. I have that experience. I'm the only candidate in this race with a business background and a career in finance and banking. I'm a graduate of Colgate University and New York University Grad School, having majored in economics, political science, management, marketing, and finance. I'm a former student government president of 3 academic institutions, including Colgate, and I've served on the community planning board for New York City as a mayoral appointee. I know what it's like to work hard and sacrifice in tandem with my wife of 32 years for the future of our family, and I'll do the same for you, your families, and your children. I have the necessary years of experience and judgment to best address the needs of everyday people, because once again,
all right, thank you, Mr. Boone. That was a minute. Thank you very much. Listen, this is not easy. There's a lot of you out there, and to go through what we did in the last approximately, well, more than 90 minutes, really, is really something. So I want to thank you for a couple of things. I want to thank you for your willingness to serve. I want to thank you for your commitment of time. And I wish all of you the best, to stay healthy and well as you continue on with your campaign. For those of you watching, this has been the Congress District 10 Democratic primary debate. And unfortunately, because of a scheduling conflict, the remaining Democratic candidate